Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tashmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupagada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Palakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagala Ragala Tanvitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagala Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Kuruna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Chubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Vivacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
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 Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayana Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devam Saraswati Vyasam
Tato Jayamudiraye Nasta Preshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Shevaya Bhagavat Yutama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki. Today, Thursday, what is it? July 11th, 2024. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order, chapter number 23, Prithu Maharaj Goes Back Home. Text number 18. Tam sarva guna Tam sarva guna vinyasam Jive maya mae nyadat Tam chanu sayam atmastam Asavanu puman Ganavairagya virjena Sarupasto jahat Prabhu Tam sarvaguna vinyasam Jive maya mae nidhat Tam chanushayam atmastam Asavanushai puman Ganavairagya virjena Swarupasto jahat Prabhu Tam sarva guna vinyasam Jive maya mae nidhat Tam chanushayam atmastam Asavanushai puman Ganavairagya virjena Swarupasto jahat Prabhu
Tam sarva guna vinyasam
Tam sarva guna vinyasam
Jive maya mae
Jive maya mae nidhat
nidhat Chanushayam atmastam
Tam chanushayam atmastam Asavanushai puman Ganavairagya virjena Swarupasto jahat Prabhu Guna vinyasam Jive maya mae nidhat Tam chanushayam atmastam Asavanushai puman Ganavairagya virjena Swarupasto jahat Prabhu Guna vinyasam Jive maya mae nidhat Tam chanushayam atmastam Asavanushai puman Ganavairagya virjena Swarupasto jahat Prabhu. The synonyms, please repeat. Tam unto him. Sarvaguna vinayasam. Sarvaguna vinyasam. The reservoir of all qualities. Jive unto the designations. Maya maye, the reservoir of all potencies. Nirdat, placed. Tam, that. Cha, also. Anushayam, designation. Atmastam, situated in self-realization. Asau, he. Anushayi, the living entity. Puman, the enjoyer. Jnana, knowledge. Vairagya, renunciation. Viryena, by the prowess of Sarupasta, being situated in one's constitutional position. Vajahat, returned home. Prabhu, the controller. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Prithu Maharaj then offered the total designation of the living entity unto the supreme controller of illusory energy. Being released from all the designations by which the living entity became entrapped, he became free by knowledge and renunciation and by the spiritual force of his devotional service. In this way, being situated in his original constitutional position of Krishna consciousness, he gave up this body as a Prabhu, or controller of the senses. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. As stated in the Vedas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the source of material energy. Who knows a verse that states that? And also, Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, Atak Sarvam Pravartate. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo, I am the source of all the spiritual and material energies. Matak Sarvam Pravartate, everything is coming from me. So, Bhagavad Gita. Consequently, he is sometimes called Maya, or the Supreme Person, who can create his pastimes through his potency known as the material energy. The jiva, or the individual living entity, becomes entrapped by the material energy, by the supreme will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita 1861, we understand, Ishvara sarva bhutanam rindeshe arjuntishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantrarhudhani mayaya. Ishvara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is situated within the heart of all conditioned souls. And by his supreme will, the living entity or individual soul gives the facility to lord it over material nature in various types of bodies, which are known as jantra, or the moving vehicle offered by the total material energy, Maya. Jantra urudhani Maya. Although the individual living entity, jiva, and the Lord are both situated within the material energy, the Lord is directing the movements of the jiva soul by offering him different types of bodies through the material energy, and thus the living entity is wandering throughout the universes in various forms of body and becomes implicated in different situations, partaking of the reactions of fruitive activities. So we are implicated in different types of situations. Implicated makes it sound like someone is committing a crime, right? Is implicated in a murder or a theft. So we are implicated in the crime of forgetting Krishna and not surrendering to him. When Prithu Maharaj became spiritually powerful by the enhancement of his spiritual knowledge, jnana, and renunciation of material desires, he became a Prabhu, or master of his senses, sometimes called Goswami or Swami. This means that he was no longer controlled by the influence of material energy. When one is strong enough to give up the influence of material energy, he is called Prabhu. In this verse, the word Swarupasta is also very significant. The real identity of the individual soul lies in understanding or attaining the knowledge that he is eternally a servant of Krishna. This understanding is called Swarupo Palabdhi. By culturing devotional service, the devotee gradually comes to understand his actual relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By culturing devotional service, he gradually comes to understand his actual relationship with Krishna. This understanding of one's pure spiritual position is called Swarupa Palabdhi. And when one attains that stage, he can understand how he is related with the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a servant or friend or as a parent or conjugal lover. This stage of understanding is called Swarupa Sta. So that is the meaning of Swarupa. Rupa means form, and Swarupa means one's own form, Swarupa. So one's Swarupa is in a particular relationship with Krishna. And Prabhupada lists the 4 primary rasas. Well, 5, friend, 4 primary rasas: servant, friend, parent, or conjugal lover. So Prithu Maharaj realized this Swarupa completely, and it will be clear in the later verses that he personally left this world or his body by riding on a chariot sent from Vaikuntha. Yee-haw! Riding on that chariot. That's what we want to do, catch a ride on that chariot sent from Vaikuntha. That is the ride of one's life, of many lifetimes. In this verse, the word Prabhu is also significant. As stated before, when one is completely self-realized and acts according to that position, he can be called Prabhu. The spiritual master is addressed as Prabhupada because he is a completely self-realized soul. The word pada means position, and Prabhupada indicates that he is given the position of Prabhu, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for he acts on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless one is a Prabhu, or controller of the senses, he cannot act as a spiritual master, who is authorized by the Supreme Prabhu, or Lord Krishna. In his verses praising the spiritual master, Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur writes, Sakshad Hari Tvena Samasta Shastra Utastata Bhavyate Eva Shadavi. Quote, the spiritual master is honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. So Sakshad means the same as or non-different. Sakshad Hari Tvena means the Hari means the Lord, Hari, and Tvena means the quality or essence of the Lord. So he has that same quality or essence of the Lord, Samasta Shastra, according to all these scriptures. Utastata Bhavyata Eva Shadavi. And also according to the sadhu, Eva Shadavi, certainly the sadhus say, because of his confidential service to the Supreme Lord. Thus, Prithu Maharaj can also be called Prabhupada, or as described here in Prabhu. Another question may be raised in this connection. Since Prithu Maharaj was a power incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shakti-Avesh Avatar, why did he have to execute the regular principles in order to become a Prabhu? Because he appeared on this earth and as an ideal king, and because it is the duty of the king to instruct the citizens in the execution of devotional service, he followed all the regulative principles of devotional service in order to teach others. What's a relevant verse in this regard from the Bhagavad Gita? That he had to teach because he's the king and he's instructing everyone. He has to teach everyone by setting the example. Yad yad acharati shrestas tad eva taro janaha sayat pananam kurute lokos tadanavartante. Whatever actions a great person performs, then all the common people will pursue that. Lokos tadanavartante. The whole world will follow a great personality. But unfortunately, in modern society, these so-called great personalities are actually not great. They're all a bunch of rascals and fools. And they don't know how to behave properly. And therefore, they do not. Because they have no idea. Natividu Swartagatim Vishnu. They have no idea that the real business is to, the real goal of life is the lotus feet of the Lord. So the Pritha Maharaj, he's perfectly performing the duties of a devotee in relationship to the Lord, even though, I mean, he's Shaktivesh Avatar. Prabhupada called him here power incarnation of the Lord. He's got the power. So he doesn't have to follow rules and regulations. But for the benefit of all the citizens, the followers, he exhibits the proper behavior. And Prabhupada reinforces this by saying, similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although Krishna himself, taught us how to approach Krishna as a devotee. It is said, Apani achari bhakti shikainu shamhare. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed others in the process of devotional service by setting the example himself through his own personal actions. Similarly, Prithu Maharaj, although a Shaktivesh avatar incarnation, still behaved exactly as a devotee in order to achieve the position of Prabhu. Furthermore, Swarupastha means complete liberation, as it is said in Bhagavatam 2.10.6, Hitvanyata rupam swarupena vivastiti. Muktir hivanyata rupam swarupena vivastiti. When a living entity abandons the activities of Maya and attains the position from which he can execute devotional service, his state is called Swarupa Stha, or complete liberation. And let us go to that verse. Is it? Yes. This is from 2nd Canto, 10th chapter, verse number 6. Nirodho Shayanu Shayanam Atmana Sakashakti Vihi Muktir Hitvan Yata Rupam Swarupena Vyavastitihi. The merging of the living entity along with his conditional living tendency with the mystic lying down of the Mahavishnu is called the winding up of the cosmic manifestation. Liberation is the permanent situation of the form of the living entity. Muktir Hitvanyata Rupam, that is his form, Swarupena Vyavastitihi, after he gives up the changeable, gross, and subtle material bodies. So the living entity attains his permanent form, Swarupena, not just after giving up this gross body, giving up the gross and the subtle bodies. That is a detail we must not overlook, because in order to go back to the spiritual world or to attain our Swarupa, we also have to give up the subtle material body. As one friend of mine would say, if you tell him, oh, you have to give up the subtle material body as well, he would say, uh-oh. Uh-oh, I have to give up the subtle material body too, but that is the attachment, the mind, intelligence, and especially the ahankara, the false ego, by which one identifies with this gross and subtle bodies. I have to give that up too? Uh-oh. Problema. You're giving up the gross material body. That is easy. Everyone does that. Every cat, every dog, every human being, every living entity in this world gives up their gross body. Okay. But give me a challenge that is more pressing. Oh, you have to give up your subtle body too. Your attachment to enjoying matter and thinking yourself as a product of and enjoyer of that material energy. Oh, I don't know about that. Why are you asking so much? But if you want to go back to Godhead, that's what happens. But Prithu Maharaj, he's so powerful. Dhirodatta, the word is used in this verse. By jnana and vairagya, viryena, jnana vairagya virya, by the potency, by the power of his jnana, his knowledge, and vairagya, his detachment, completely detached from sense gratification. That's a big thing, to be completely detached from sense gratification. Who amongst us, we'll take a show of hands, is completely detached from sense gratification? Please raise your hand. Oh, gee whiz. But we are much more detached from sense gratification by practicing bhakti than the ordinary conditioned souls. Because we practice that detachment. And Arjuna asked this question to Krishna, and Krishna is telling him to control the mind on all sides, the mind and the senses on all sides. But how is it possible? Chanchalahi mana Krishna, Brahmati balavad bridham, bala, strength. The mind is very powerful. Tasyaham nigraham manye, Vayor eva saduskanam. Vayor eva, it's like catching the wind. Who can catch the wind? All right, wind, come on. I'll take you on. But the wind is more pervasive and powerful than you can catch. You may have a sail on a boat and catch a little wind and take a ride. But that is not capturing the wind and controlling it. That you cannot do. So Arjuna is complaining to Krishna, Chanchala hi mana Krishna. Oh Krishna, this mind is chanchala. It is flickering. It is going here. It is going there. Sometimes it is thinking of this sense gratification. Sometimes it is thinking of that sense gratification. And in 1 second, it blasts off into space. And it's thinking about becoming the Lord of the entire universe. Going here, going there, always flickering, never remaining in one place. Chanchala. So he's complaining to Krishna, what are you talking about? Control the mind. Who can control the mind? Who can control the wind? Vayor eva saduskaram. Saduskara means that's impossible. You can't do it. And Krishna tells him, yes, the mind is very powerful, but by constant practice and detachment, one can bring the mind under the control of the self. There's a statement in the description in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna and Uddhava are talking about the mind. And there it's stated that the mind is godlike in its power. What power is that? What is that godlike power? To bewilder the living entity and dictate to him so many things. So he has like a power of God over the living entity. Go here, go there, enjoy like this. And the mind will convince one that, well, yes, I am very powerful and godlike, but one is actually the servant of the mind, the servant of the senses. And one is helplessly dragged hither and thither, even against his own will. Arjuna says that. One is forced against his will to act in foolish ways by the modes of material nature. So let us turn to the purport of this verse in the 2nd canto. Prabhupada tells us that, as we have discussed several times, there are 2 types of living entities. Most of them are liberated, ever liberated, or nityamuktas. That's all the inhabitants of the spiritual realm. the Vaikuntha planets and Krishna Loka, they're all liberated. And there's a lot more of them than there are of us conditioned souls. While some of them are ever conditioned, that's us. The ever conditioned souls are apt to develop a mentality of lording it over the material nature. And therefore the material cosmic creation is manifested to give the ever conditioned souls two kinds of facilities. One facility is that the conditioned soul can act according to his tendency to lord it over the cosmic manifestation. Foolishly or falsely. We're not actually lording it over the cosmic manifestation. What a preposterous proposal. But we think we are. That's even more preposterous. And the other facility gives the conditioned soul a chance to what? To come back to Godhead. So that's the choice. I'm free. Yes, I'm free. How am I free? Well, I can choose to stay in this material world, or I can choose to go back home, back to Godhead. Prabhupada writes that elsewhere, actually in the 4th canto. He writes, the living entity is completely free to do whatever he likes. He can stay in this material world and get kicked by Maya, or he can go back home, back to Godhead. It's your choice. What are you going to choose? Think about it. What would you choose? What are you going to choose at every moment of your life? You should be choosing to chant the holy names, serve Krishna, and remain in the association of devotees, and thus go back home, back to Godhead. And then the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya is asked, well, how would you describe a Vaishnava? What is the behavior of a Vaishnava? And the answer is given. Asatsangatyag, e Vaishnavachar. The Vaishnava Achar, the behavior of a Vaishnava, asatsangatyag. Tyaga means to renounce or give up. Asatsanga, the association of those who are non-devotees. Wow. That's a big ask, huh? Does that mean never talk to anybody? Never look at anybody's face? No. You're just playing devil's advocate, I know. She was nodding her head, yes. Never talk to anybody. No, but it means asatsanga, the association with non-devotees for nefarious purposes of sense gratification, which can be gross or subtle. Some people get all their happiness, their enjoyment from subtle sense gratification. Being recognized by someone else. Getting some distinction, some adoration, some profit from others. Yes. They're recognizing my glories. Or they at least looked at me and paid attention to me. That's, for some people, that's a big thing. People do anything just like a little kid will do anything to get the attention of their parent. Look at me. Look, I'm doing this. Aren't I glorious? Oh yes, the parent will say, you are very glorious. Yes, of course I am. So that asat sanga tyag means we don't hang out with those who are not devotees and chew the fat with them or shoot the breeze or various types of non-Krishna conscious association. Prabhupada explains in one place, he says, friendship in the material world is you come together and you smoke for 5 or 10 minutes. That is association. Yes, let us smoke. We are both enjoying sense gratification. Or you come together and drink for a few minutes. Oh, yes. We are relishing that association on the platform of sense gratification. But a devotee, asatsangachag, a Vaishnavachar, his behavior is that he does not keep company with the non-devotees. He may interact with the non-devotees, especially for the purpose of preaching Krishna consciousness, or giving them, the non-devotees, some opportunity, like our customers in the restaurant. When the customers come in the restaurant, we don't say, "Hey, dirty, stinking Carmi, I can't stand you or your association. So buy some prasadam, eat it, and get the heck out of here."
I say that.
Oh, that's what you say, is actually. No. But we treat them with respect. Amanina, manadena, kirtaniya sadhari. One should give respect to everyone. One should not require respect for oneself. And please come, partake of the atmosphere of Krishna consciousness and partake of the prasadam. Although we are not telling them directly, "Oh yes, you are a fool and a rascal, you are a servant of your senses. When you take prasad, you get a little purified. And someday you'll get an opportunity to become Krishna conscious." As one devotee characterized, food for life, food for next life. You get an opportunity in your next life to become a devotee because you have gotten some purification in prasad, mercy from Krishna. Prasad means mercy. You've gotten that mercy. So we treat them kindly and gently and allow them to take prasadam. So that effect that they get is called agyata sukriti. Sukriti, punya, pious activity, but agyata, they don't even know. Whereas a devotee is accumulating sukriti, but it's not agyata. A devotee knows, yes, I'm chanting the holy name, I'm taking prasadam. He knows exactly what's happening. He understands the principle. So, agyata sukriti. They do not know how they're accumulating pious activities. And in the future, they will get an opportunity to become a devotee and go back to Godhead. Let's continue with what Prabhupada is telling us in the second canto. So after winding up of the cosmic manifestation, most of the conditioned souls merge into the existence of the Mahavishnu, personality of Godhead, lying in his mystic slumber, to be created again in the next creation. But some of the conditioned souls who follow the transcendental sound in the form of Vedic literatures and are thus able to go back to Godhead attain spiritual and original bodies after quitting the conditional, gross, and subtle material bodies. The material conditional bodies develop out of the living entity's forgetfulness of their relationship with Godhead. And during the course of the cosmic manifestation, the conditioned souls are given a chance to revive their original status of life with the help of revealed scriptures, so mercifully compiled by the Lord in his different incarnations. Reading or hearing of such transcendental literatures helps one become liberated, even in the conditional state of material existence. And that is stated by Rupa Goswami. Iha yasya harer dasye karmana manasa gira nikalashvat yavashtasu jivan mukta sa uchate. So one is known, jivan mukta, as a liberated soul, even in this life, if iha yasya harer dasye, if he steps up to the platform of Haridas, iha yasya harer dasye, and that is symptomized by karmana manasa gira, utilizing one's actions the stuff one does with one's hands and legs and speech and mind. Karmana, manasa, the mind, gira, one's power of speech. Done in the service of the Lord, Haridas. Nikalashvatvyavastasu, jivan mukta savuchite. Even while one remains in this body is a symptom of what? Our forgetfulness of God and our desire to lord it over the material nature. So it is awarded to us, it is given to us by the Lord. Because, why? Because we want it. We want it. We want it pretty bad. We want to enjoy. That's the plight of the conditioned soul. Under the strict grip of the material nature. Yes, I want to enjoy. And even after this body dies, I still want to enjoy. Okay, then take another body. Unless and until we become Krishna conscious. Then we can go back home, back to Godhead. All the Vedic literatures aim at devotional service to the personality of Godhead. And as soon as one is fixed upon this point, he at once becomes liberated from conditional life. The material, gross, and subtle forms are simply due to the conditioned soul's ignorance. So it's like the Scarlet Letter. There's a novel about the Scarlet Letter, and a woman was an adulterer, had to wear an A, letter A, a red A on her forehead. So we're all marked or branded by our guilt of wanting to lord over material nature by being in one of these bodies. You can't hide it. Oh no, I'm not a conditioned soul. Well, yes, why are you in this material body? How come you have come to take this material body? It is simply my Leela, my pastime. We are all God. It is our pastime that we're an illusion. That's called Mayavadi philosophy. That's rascal philosophy. And as soon as the living entity is fixed in devotional service of the Lord, he becomes eligible to be freed from the conditioned state. This devotional service is transcendental attraction for the Supreme on account of his, or the Lord, being the source of all pleasing humors, or rasas, or taste and relationship. Everyone is after some pleasure or humor for enjoyment, but does not know the supreme source of all attraction. And Prabhupada, in parentheses, quotes, Raso vai sarasam yaevayam love vananmi bhavati, that the Supreme Lord is the source of all rasa, or attraction. The Vedic hymns inform everyone about the supreme source of all pleasure. The unlimited fountain of all pleasure is the personality of Godhead. And one who is fortunate enough to get this information through transcendental literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam becomes permanently liberated to occupy his proper place in the kingdom of God. So that is what your life is meant for. To hear from like the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Vedic literatures and chant the holy name in the association of devotees and regain your proper place in the kingdom of God. To catch a ride on that chariot. Yee-haw! Now we're enjoying. Now we're on the ride back home, back to Godhead. Now that is fun. That is the real happiness. Imagine the thrill you feel while riding on that chariot, going back to the spiritual world. Oh yeah, baby. Take me, Krishna. Take me now. And I don't ever want to come back again. And that is the position of Muktir Hivannita Rupam Valvastena. All right. So let me return to today's verse. Prithu Maharaj then offered the total designation of the living entity under the supreme controller of illusory energy, being released from all designations. That's also explained. Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam. When one becomes liberated from material designations, then Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanin Bhakti Uchite. One engages his senses in the service of the master of the senses. So being released from all designations by which the living entity became entrapped, he became free by knowledge and renunciation, and by Viryena, by the spiritual force of his devotional service. In this way, being situated in his original constitutional position of Krishna consciousness, he gave up this body as a Prabhu, or controller of the senses. Wonderful, beautiful verse and beautiful philosophy by which one can aspire to catch a ride on that Vaikuntha chariot and get the heck out of this dark and stinky place. And once again, experience the true happiness of Krishna consciousness, unencumbered by material desires and the tendency to lord it over the material nature. All right, questions, comments, realizations?
Yeah. Speaking of this subtle material desire to be recognized and just, fame, private adoration, distinction.
That's a biggie.
Sometimes it seems so difficult to overcome that. Even if you're fighting it, it's still there. It's always hanging on you. So is there any way, how do we actually overcome that?
It is so powerful that you don't realize it. You don't even know it. You don't even know you're doing it. It's a bad habit. But it's also a cultivation, a culture of wanting to lord over the material energy since time immemorial. So would you like to get some adoration, some profit, distinction? Well, I've been trying to give that up, But it's tough going. So it is not easy. And we are so much captive by the forces of Maya that we don't even know. We don't even know it when we're doing it. Although certainly others may see it in us and recognize it. Oh yes, trying to enjoy it. And we may not see it ourselves.
Yes.
But Maya's so sneaky, so tricky. She's the sneakiest of the sneaky and the trickiest of the tricky. And she'll fool you every time. And the only remedy is to take very tight false ego and the desire to be appreciated by others.
And one other thing is when...
Oh, wait a minute, I'm not through.
Oh, sorry.
Where someone will say, "Oh, you are very nice." And then you're like, "Yes, I am. You have understood. Now you have realized the truth. Because I am very nice, and you have recognized it. Therefore, you are nice for recognizing my true glories. And thank you very much. And also, feel free to offer more." More of the same, if you don't mind. Kindly indulge me and give me some more. So, yes, it's innate as within the consciousness of the conditioned soul, the desire to be adored or recognized and to achieve some distinction. So next.
Oh, so when, say, Maharaj Prithu returned back to Godhead, is there any possibility of souls that reach Godhead of falling again?
Well, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that once you go back to the spiritual world, you don't return again or take birth in this material world. So that's nice. But once you go, you're gone. Gone like a train. It's gone. Of course, the trains here in Tucson, when they block the intersection, and go very slow. But once you return to the spiritual world, you stay. You revive your permanent. That's that verse says, Mukti Hiranyata, that this liberation is the permanent situation of the living entity who becomes realized by virtue of Krishna consciousness. So it's not easy, but anything that you want to attain that's glorious, it is not easy. If there's no hard struggle, then where's the glory? Right? As it said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when talking about poetry, what is the use of the hunter's arrow if it enters the heart, but that does not cause the head to spin? And what is the value of poetry if when one hears the poetry, one is not moved by that? So speaking specifically of transcendental poetry. When one hears the transcendental poetry, for example, Srimad Bhagavatam, then one's heart is moved and one's head spins in wonderment at the glory of that transcendental poetry, Uttama Shloka. So, isn't that nice? The hunter's arrow enters the heart but does not cause the head to spin. What is the value? That's an amazing analogy. This is the Bengali take on the essence of Krishna consciousness. Hearing the poetry of Rupa Goswami. When you hear that poetry, it's so wonderful, and you're, wow, you're just stunned. That's poetry. That's real poetry. Not a rose is red, violet's blue, and all that. Did you want to say something else, Lita?
I just had a question about friendship. I mean, because if I like Ram Nam, but he also likes me, so now we're friends. And so isn't that also a little bit of, fame, profit, and distinction, because
None of
we're
it's
now
on
friends?
the friendship has to be on the basis of Krishna consciousness.
Mhm.
Why are we friends? Because we're recognizing that we're all servants of Krishna.
Mhm.
You're a servant of Krishna. You know that. I'm a servant of Krishna. I know that. And therefore, the friendship amongst and between devotees is not only permissible, but it is required. Because Prabhupada quotes, says, man is a social animal. We want to have relationships. We require that. So to be Krishna conscious, we don't just go off in the forest in a cave and meditate. No, but we associate with devotees. Asat Sangha Tyag means one gives up the association of devotees, of non-devotees, but simultaneous, concurrently with giving up the association of non-devotees, is the association of devotees. Sadhu Sangha. Therefore, we worship Sadhu Sangha. Because by Lavamatra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy, one can attain all perfection, even by a moment's association with a devotee. So let us take every moment, Lavamatra, and always keep in Sadhu Sangha. And then those friendships, they help us and they give us solace, and then they also give us impetus. Because when you keep association with a devotee, does the devotee say, hey, let's go to the nightclub and drink some beer? No, the devotee doesn't say that. The devotee says, let's do some service. Let's chant our rounds. Let's go to Mongol Artik. Let's take prasad. That's what a devotee does. It's on the basis of Krishna consciousness. So that friendship is actually required, and it is essential. And if you're in Krishna consciousness and you don't have any friends, you in a heap of trouble, boy. So it is required. One time I was explaining this point, and one devotee who was, I would say, a bit of a contrarian, but more like a total contrarian, he said, "Boy, devotees, they become friends and then they go off together and they go away." And I said, "Why are you bringing that? We're talking the positive here, the positive value of friendship, and you want to negate that by saying that's material." I did not become friends with that devotee. Because I don't think he understood the value of that. Of course, he was someone who he was a Prabhupada disciple, but he had gone away after a short time of becoming a devotee in the 70s. And then he came back decades later, and he didn't know that the Krishna conscious movement had expanded and evolved, and devotees had understood better relationships than they did back in the Brooklyn Temple in 1973. So, and then he was criticizing one devotee. "Who is that devotee? Who is this? Who is he initiated by? Who is his spiritual master?" And he said, "That devotee's been practicing Krishna consciousness the whole time you were blues." So, have a little respect, okay? Someone who's giving their life to Krishna, have a little respect. You missed the boat, so now you're coming back. Good, now you're back. But, be a little humble about it, because, after all, you were gone for 40 years. So, anyway, he was decrying the value of Vaishnava friendship, but this is a complete misunderstanding. I set him straight, however. All right, so we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki.